Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 204. And this show, we review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. And this week I have 19 books. It's a regular week for me, and we're going to jump in with worst pick of the week, number 19, which is the Mighty Thor, issue 22, which I'm sad to see this because I do like Jane Foster's Thor and I like this series, but I really could care less about the Ultimate Thor, and that's really the focus was him here, and by the end of the issue you see Jane and him are going to fight. A lot of the dialogue was bogged down, really exposition heavy, and the artist wasn't the same. Doderman did one page, so the rest of the book was, you know, darker artwork. But still a cartoonier style. It was weird. So overall I'm going to give the Mighty Thor issue 22 2 stars, and that is number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is Superman issue 29. Just feels like another filler issue to me, and something we've seen before with Superman. I will say I do love this cover though, where he's saying the anthem for the Sinestro Corps. But we've seen Superman as, Yellow Lantern, so, if you've read Injustice, so it just didn't do much for me. In the kid storyline, I didn't feel a connection with that. The build-up was kind of weird for it. The artwork the inking's very dark, and I didn't like that, and it's, you know, the art style I haven't been liking for Superman. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. I just feel like it's a repeat, something we've seen before, and just kind of feels like a filler story for, I guess, for the Oz Effect coming up in September. Moving on to number 17, which is X-Men Blue, issue 9, which I'm just kind of done with the Secret Empire storyline. I felt like there was a lot going on. They tried to fit a lot into this, but at the same time, I don't know if there was a lot of story progression. There was a lot of action and interactions, but just not a lot of plot progression until the end, where we find out that Cyclops and Jean kind of have their minds melding together and they can hear each other's thoughts, which I thought was cool. And you still wonder, is this team teaming up with the bad guys? Because now they're working with Magneto, and Polaris is going to be a mentor for them. So you're still wondering, is the X-Men Blue the good guys or the bad guys? So I do like that aspect. But the artwork was pretty simple. The proportions were off. There's one scene where one of the characters like had this, you know, little hand. The proportions were very off. Let me see if I can find that page. Like, she's holding the glass and she kind of has a small hand, and that was more of the proportions than anything. So, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this one, and that is number, I believe, 17, and I gave that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 16, which is Invincible Iron Man issue 10. So, this issue, I'm not a huge fan of Infamous Iron Man. If you are, I think you're going to like this more. It's her going to Latavia and, I totally pronounced that wrong, but yeah, Latavia. Anyways, she goes there. She does help people, which I did like, and I enjoyed that aspect, but the dialogue between Agent Carter and her was not working for me. I just kind of bored with this issue. I liked her interactions with her mom in the end. I thought that was cool, but didn't really make the issue for me. I thought it was very forgettable. So Invincible Iron Man issue 10 gets 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 15, which is Spider-Man 2 issue 2, which is kind of the same thing. It's learning more about the other Miles Morales, but actually not learning more about him. What we find out is that Spider-Man Googled him, you know, this big cliffhanger that we've all been asking for. He found nothing. That's what he found, nothing. That's what we were waiting for. I did like the scene with Jessica Jones where she goes to all these different people to try to figure out that also there's nothing on this other Miles Morales. So there's underwhelming parts, obviously, and I still don't love the chemistry between Spider-Man and Miles with this series. Usually I do like their chemistry, but here it doesn't really work, and that's the heart of the series, should be their chemistry. So I'm a little torn on it. I don't know how to feel about it. Overall, I gave it 3 stars. It's an okay issue, but I still feel like this was not the right time to tell the book, and it should have been told probably 4 years ago after the original Spider-Man miniseries. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Alright, moving on to number 14, which is Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, issue 11, which was pretty good. It's still kind of out there, and if you've been reading Cave Carson, it's kind of the same thing. But I guess the parts I did like was the mother, you know, her sacrificing herself, even though it wasn't actually the mother, but it kind of is. The book is totally trippy. If you like the trippiness, I think you're going to really like this. For me, it was maybe a little bit too trippy, but there was some good character moments between Chloe, Cave Carson, and kinda her mom. So Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, issue 11 gets 3 stars. Still, for some reason, something's pulling me for this book, even with its trippiness. So number 13 is Sheena, issue 0. I gave it a try because it was 25 cents, so why not? And I've always wanted to try her book, but never could get into it. And this issue was kind of interesting, where we get to see Sheena is just like fighting off this unknown element, which is kind of a robot. She doesn't know it's a robot. And we find out by the end that she's in like a video game type, yeah, she's like in this video game in the television, and we find out this boy is kind of connected to her. So I like that. I like the ending. I thought that was something different to give me enough for issue 1. But the artwork, I felt like, especially for the backgrounds, could have been better. I think the backgrounds is a big part. You know, she's in the jungle. Kind of make that more lavishing, and that wasn't really part of the book. But I'll give the next issue a try. I don't know if it really sold me on it, but at least it's something different that they're trying to do with the series. Number 12 is Dark Knight's Metal, issue 1. I know maybe this is lower for some people, maybe it's higher for some people. For me, it's got a middle ground. Spoiler alert, the ending reveals Sandman is connected to all this, and I don't know much about Sandman. I've only read, I think, 1 or 2 Sandman issues. I never was interested in the character, so that didn't do much for me. I really think it depends how much of a Sandman fan and continuity fan you are, because there's a lot of explaining about continuity and how Earths are connected and all that. And if you like the Hawk people, you like that aspect, you'll love this. If not, I think it's a lot of exposition. So for me, it's kind of in the middle. There's some interesting parts. I think this is a better issue than what we've been getting, but it's still not completely selling me in the mystery and into the world. So Dark Knight's Metal, issue 1 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 11. I thought this was going to be higher, but Silvier Surfer issue 13, which is the penultimate issue to Dan Slott and Mike Allred's run, and Laura Allred's run on Silvier Surfer, which I've been loving. I really think this is some of Dan Slott's best work and Allred's best work also. And it's totally trippy, and I like the beginning of it, but I don't know how to feel about the direction, because in the end, it's really about how Norrin and Dawn grow old together, and the way it happens feels very convenient, and that's the reason why I don't know how to feel about it. It kind of feels forced that this happened, because like, oh, I want to see my dad again. I'm like, but it hasn't been all the other issues of her dealing with the grief of her dad. I don't know why that came back, and then she grows old and she dies and Norrin's alone again. So I think it's more about keeping the character back in status quo, but I don't know how to feel about that. I've always, you know, I really enjoyed Dawn's character, so to do that, I don't know. So I'm in the middle. I thought there's some good parts here. There's definitely some good emotional parts, but I don't know how to feel about the direction. So Silvier Surfer issue 13 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 10, which is The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue 10, which is a middle ground book. I like the ending where we actually see motive of Normie and why he's the type of person he is, and why he wants vengeance against Spider-Man, and got to see a little bit of his childhood. And I like the back and forth of like how Normie and Annie are different because of how they were brought up. But it takes too long to get there. There's a lot of space that's just Normie twisting his mustache and saying, ooh, I'm evil and I hate birthday cakes. So I feel like there could have been more characterization for Normie for giving him so much panel time. So overall, I gave this issue 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 9, which is Wonder Woman, issue 28. And this is a good issue. I like that it's Wonder Woman caring for Etta. I enjoyed that, and really her taking her time with Etta, and really expressing herself also, saying that she doesn't want Etta to die. She's fearful that Steve's going to die, and she knows it's going to happen one day. So I like that. I like how much heart there is with this book. You really feel that with Wonder Woman, and that's obviously important, the love and heart of the character, but also this warrior aspect. I mean, the assassin whole storyline is a little generic, but I did like the character moments and the voice that that the writer is giving for the character. So, Wonder Woman issue 28 gets 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Green Lanterns issue 29. And this issue, it takes its time a bit to learn more about these other Green Lanterns, but the heart of this issue was definitely Jessica kind of being the leader and Simon being the leader. I like that. It's a fun issue. It's not a filler issue, but it's a kind of spaced out issue, I would say, decompressed issue, but I liked it. If you like seeing Jessica in charge, it's a nice change of pace. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. And artwork is pretty good too. The colors are a bit deeper here. Alright, moving on to number 7, which is Invincible, issue 139. Glad to see this a bit higher now, because it's been really taking its time with these last chapters. But here I feel like we had a lot of action, but also a lot of good story here. We get to see characters interact that you wouldn't expect, like the character that Adam Eves interacts with. But also, it's really the heart of the battle. You don't know who's going to die and who won't. And by the end, you really are questioning, is Mark going to survive? So it's a good action-packed issue, but I think there was a good mixture of character moments here, too, that kind of makes it. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Alright, moving on to number 6, which is Batman issue 29. Almost made it to top 5. I don't love the War of Jokes and Riddles story arc. I do feel like because it's a flashback, it's taken its time, you know? It's taken its time, and it's not exactly my type of story, but I like this issue of how it's broken down into dinner courses. I thought that was a really cool structure for the book, so I applaud Tom King for that. And it's just interesting to see Bruce, the Riddler, and Joker having dinner together. It's fun and a really cool character-driven issue. Again, close to being in my top 5. So Batman issue 29 gets 4 stars, and that is number 6. Now moving on to number 5, which is Motor Girl issue 8. And I thought this issue was a better balanced issue between the aliens plotline and Sam's plotline. So the alien plotline definitely has some humor when we get to see the government agents captures one of the aliens. Hopefully that connects to Sam's storyline soon. But Sam's storyline has a lot of emotional punch here, where we see how she was captured, and her connection to the gorilla doll, which is still very saddening. And now we see that the reason she's been hallucinating is that she has something in her head and that she needs surgery to get it out, but she doesn't want the surgery, which is really interesting. And I'm interested to see where that goes. Some really good psychological story here. Overall, I gave this issue 4 stars. Moving on to number 4, which is Regression, issue 4. I enjoyed this. I really like Molly and, I think his name's Adrian, our main character. Yeah, I think it's Adrian. But I like their back and forth, and how much Molly cares for him as a friend is really interesting to see. And she kind of feels guilty that he's ended up this way. She feels like it's her fault. So by the end, she takes him to another kind of hypnotist, magic, you know, someone's connected to magic, to try to figure more stuff out of what's going on with him. And now we see him kind of connecting more with his past selves. So really interesting character issue, but I feel like it progresses the plot well too. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 stars. And beautiful artwork. Love the art. It's disturbing and also very bright though. I like that aspect of the art. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. Regression issue 4. Now it's number 4. A lot of 4s. Alright, moving on to number 3. I have not had this since the first issue for this book. So Batwoman issue 6. This has really been on my bottom a lot. and I was ready to drop this book, honestly, but this issue really grabbed me back, especially if you're into DC Rebirth and the mystery of DC Rebirth. You get some answers here, that Batwoman is this broken hero. She, I love her explanation of what the bat symbol means to her. In what's been going on and how she became this person. And you find out that Tim is the new Batman, and he's putting fear into the world, and it's Batwoman trying to fight Tim. Really interesting stuff here. So I like this as a prelude, I guess, going into Detective Comics. But I enjoyed this, and it kind of brought me some more hope for Batwoman. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Now moving on to number 2, which is Injustice 2, issue 8. This was a fun issue. I mean, sad issue too, but fun issue where we get to see Black Canary, Green Arrow, Black Lightning. They want to get their kids, obviously. They hear Ra's al Ghul's point, and they're like, well, we got to save our kids. And it's Batgirl who actually takes charge and says, hey, Bruce, you're too connected to this. I'm going to take charge with this. And there's one man I think you really should get. And that's Plastic Man. And the interaction between Plastic Man and Batman is golden in this book, and I loved how Tom Taylor brought him onto the team. So even though it's a slower issue and it's kind of one of those issues that's in between moments, I liked it. There's so much character moments, the artwork is gorgeous, and I'm excited to see where this one will go. So Injustice 2 issue 8 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to the obvious number 1 for me this week, and that was Generations, Wolverine, and All New Wolverine. This one hit it out of the ballpark, where we get to see Laura interact with Logan for one last day. That moment where you've lost someone, you ask that what if question, what if I had one last day with them? And Laura gets that answer. It's a really action-packed, kind of comedic, but also sad issue. It brings all those emotions into one, and I love that it's in Logan's point of view, because this is a point of view we haven't had. For the past 2 years, it's been Laura grieving for Logan. So now we're seeing Logan see his daughter for the first time, and I like that it wasn't Laura who says, hey, I'm your daughter. Instead, it's Logan throughout the issue figuring out, this is my daughter. I see that we're the same, but we're also kind of different. And I like that moment. And finally, when they have that moment to connect, she has to disappear. And it was a really, heartbreaking issue, but such a good character-driven issue. The action was on point. And this is exactly what you should do with a Generations book. It has to be about the relationship. And really, I think Tom Taylor does that very well here. So overall, I'm going to give Generations Wolverine and All New Wolverine issue 1 4.5 stars. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what was your worst pick of the week, your best pick of the week, and everything in between. This is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline. Of course, I'll have a new episode of Comic Uno next week, and I will see you guys later. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, in the description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.